What up, what up, what up, everybody? Welcome back to the Charter Podcast, brought to you by St. Xavier University. I am 𝗪𝗓cie 𝗶𝗹, joined as always by my guy, Clay Harbor. Ruthie is still off on her European adventures, having a wonderful time on vacay. Clay and I were just bemoaning the fact that it's almost July, and the summer's halfway over, and what's going on? How is this possible? So that's where we're at. We hope you're enjoying your summer so far. It's been really hot. But Clay, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, I like I said, I feel like this summer has just flown by. But historically, my favorite month of the year is usually July. I love July. July is just a great month. And historically, we're going back. I mean, you're always getting ready for training camp. Football season's coming. You're excited, even as a player, as a media member. So July is a good month. I got a lot of good vibes. You're the vibes guy, Alex, but I got a lot of good vibes heading into July this year.
Love it. The 4th of July, always fun. Your birthday is in July, isn't it?
Dang, man. I wasn't going to say anything, but you remembered that. I was just going to let that one slide too. That's not the reason I love July, but yeah, July is my month. If I had to pick one month, Alex, it's July.
Great month. We're on the precipice, and we are on the precipice of an excellent episode of the Charter for you all. We are going to go and look at some of the biggest storylines coming up this season, right? The season is far away, but it's also like approaching. Training camp is also far away, so it's like, we don't want to talk too much about training camp. We're talking big picture, big storylines that we are looking forward to in 2025, in the 2025 season. But before we get into that, Clay, you said you had something for me. You wanted my take on something.
Absolutely. So I was just surfing. I like to do my research for the Charter Podcast and the Big Pro Football Show. And, Pro Football Focus does a really good job with, analytics, not necessarily the PFF grades, but they'll give you the passer rating when targeted, the routes run in the slot, the number of times a defensive end lines up as a 3, a 4, a 6. So I like to search there and, see what I find and see what I see. So I'm just going through PFF and I noticed this article, and it's talking about second-year quarterbacks, and it says floors and ceilings for each second-year quarterback. And, we're in Chicago here. We cover the Chicago Bears. We have a second-year quarterback. So I'm like, oh, this is cool. Let me click and see, what they say about Caleb Williams' floor and ceiling. I think he's got a high floor. I mean, he showed last year, he's did a lot of good things. I mean, the guy had 3,500 yards, 20 touchdowns, 6 picks. He showed he can be an NFL football player. He's not a bust. At least so I thought. That's called foreshadowing. So I click on the article, and I'm going to read this to you, Alex, because we talked about it on the Big Pro Football Show, and I talked about it on social media, and it's got a lot of buzz around Bears Twitter. So I'm going to read this to you, and I want to get your reaction to this article and what they put at these players' floors and ceilings. Okay, so let's start with Caleb Williams, since we are in Chicago, and he was the first overall pick. Caleb Williams, ceiling, Jordan Love, floor, bust. Okay, we'll let you respond at the end here because I have I might have to rehash some things there. Jaden Daniels, ceiling, Lamar MVP Jackson, floor, Kyler Murray. Drake May, ceiling, Trevor Lawrence, floor, Daniel Jones.
Tough.
Okay, yeah. Michael Penix Jr., ceiling, Justin Herbert, floor, Jameis Winston, J.J. McCarthy, ceiling, Joe Burrow.
The guy who hasn't taken a snap.
Joe Burrow. Floor, Sam Darnold.
Okay.
Bo Nix. This has to be, man, this guy's going from the basement to the top of the Burj Khalifa right here. This guy's freaking Bo Nix's ceiling, Drew Brees. His floor, Mac Jones. Oh,
that's a pretty wide variance there. That is a pretty wide variance.
Huge variance.
Hall of Famer.
Give me your thoughts.
Who is now a backup.
Give me your thoughts on what stands out to you there. Obviously, we want to hear about your thoughts on the Caleb with the Jordan Love ceiling and the bust floor. But anything else that stood out to you there, just because I think it's such an interesting dynamic with I don't know how they decided this, but just the difference in players here.
Yeah. So first is the J.J. McCarthy, which is hilarious because nobody has seen this guy play in the NFL. So Joe Burrow, sure, he could be a Joe Burrow. I have no idea. What was his floor, though? Can you remind me his floor?
Sam Darnold.
That's also just a weird one because Sam Darnold played really good football last year.
Sam Darnold had 4,300 yards, 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 102 rating, 5th in passing yards, 5th in touchdowns, 6th in ratings. You're telling me that's a guy's floor before he takes a snap?
But are we talking about that Sam Darnold, or are we talking about the New York Jets Sam Darnold? Are we talking about the Carolina Panthers Sam Darnold? So even Sam Darnold has a floor and ceiling that is totally ridiculous. So that is just a weird choice. So, I mean, like J.J. McCarthy, who the hell knows? And let's bring in to Caleb Williams because this is a Bears podcast. The floor bust? Sure. Why not? Like, number 1 overall pick comes with an unbelievably high expectation. You moved on from Justin Fields to bring this guy in because you thought that this guy would bring you to the playoffs, right? And that it's a different standard. It is a double standard. I would judge Caleb Williams differently than I would judge. Now, Bo Nix is maybe a bad example because Bo Nix has already taken the Broncos to the playoffs. But like, I would judge Caleb Williams different from Bo Nix because the expectations that come with being the number 1 overall pick are so different. The expectations of this is the guy who's going to bring the Bears to the promised land are so different. So if after 4 years, the Bears don't pick up the 5th-year option and Caleb Williams plays in a vacuum, solid football or whatever, but the Bears don't win that playoff game, the Bears can't break through, I think it is fair to call it a bust. Now, obviously, we are getting like way ahead of things. Like, it's far too early. I don't believe we've seen enough, not even close to enough, to call Caleb Williams a bust. After this year, even if things don't go well, it's way too early to call him a bust. Like, way too early. So is that his floor? Like, yeah, sure. There's a world in which he's a bust. But to call Jordan Love his ceiling is also kind of ridiculous. Now, Jordan Love played good football, but he's been inconsistent. And the talent just does not match up. When I watch Caleb Williams, I don't think I'm watching Jordan Love, you know? When I watch Caleb Williams, if we're talking like honestly about this guy's ceiling, and again, I'm trying to be honest about this guy's ceiling, I think better comps are Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes. Now, putting that comp on Caleb Williams is also wildly unfair. Wildly unfair because you're talking about 2 future Hall of Famers. Patrick Mahomes might, by the end of it, might be the best quarterback of all time. Aaron Rodgers, certainly a Hall of Famer, has the Super Bowl ring. And when I watch them play, like, we know Caleb Williams modeled his game after Aaron Rodgers. It's similar, like, does not turn the ball over, doesn't throw picks, throws that ball off his back foot out of the pocket. It looks like Rodgers, you know? The playmaking, the creativity, it reminds you of Patrick Mahomes. So to say Jordan Love is his ceiling is kind of also absurd because he does have the playmaking. He does have the arm talent. He has everything that could put him at the upper echelons. I guess that's my first take when I first hear that.
Yeah, I think this was a little bit of engagement farming too. But like, Caleb Williams to me has already shown that he's not a bust. And I guess it depends on what you call a bust because he was a first overall pick, right? He's already shown that he can play decent quarterback. Obviously, we want him to get better. And it was a little disappointing for some people because he is that number 1 overall pick and you're held to a different standard than a lot of people. Say if you're a 4th round pick, Spencer Rattler getting in the game, it's different. You expect more from Caleb Williams. But this guy's not a bust, in my opinion. You've already seen him play NFL football. You've seen him throw 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 3,500 yards. Yeah, some of those games were a little bit of garbage time. You might have been behind. The defense letting you have some easy yards late in the game. But you've got to see enough to where this guy isn't a bust. And plus, now we got Big Ben in the mix. So that was funny to me. And like you said, the J.J. McCarthy, Sam Darnold floor, Joe Burrow ceiling, and this guy hasn't even taken a snap in the NFL yet. Like, wow, man, this is pretty incredible. Maybe they know something we don't. I hope that's not the case. That'd be bad for the Bears. And if this guy turns into Joe Burrow, now the NFC North is just crazy. So interesting. I wanted to get your take on that. And now let's get into the main topics of today's show. And I think this is going to be some good conversation as well. Had to hear what you thought about that because, it set Bears Twitter ablaze, and we've been having some fun with that one.
It's just so weird that it's like, okay, J.J. McCarthy hasn't taken a snap. Joe Burrow, one of the best. Jaden Daniels obviously played great. But Lamar Jackson, again, this MVP. Who was the guy? Michael Penix was Justin Herbert and
Jameis Winston.
And then who was that was another one that had a
Trevor
very narrow
Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence and Daniel
Jones.
Where it's like
that's not good. Like Trevor Lawrence, trust me, I'm a Jags guy. I love the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence is flirting. I know he got paid $55 million a year. He's the second highest paid quarterback in the NFL. But to me, he still hasn't proven that he's not a bust himself.
It goes back to that number 1 overall pick has different expectations.
And yeah, you won a playoff game, but if you look at his career wins and losses, his career numbers, and I mean, it hasn't been good for Trevor Lawrence. So this is a big year for him with Liam Cohen, DuVal. They've got to have something going on this year. Trevor might be labeled that big B word too.
Exactly. It's kind of an interesting parallel there as we're talking about these things. Before we turn the page, you gave the Liam Cohen DuVal. I don't think we've ever had you do this on this show. Oh, yeah. When it was trending, can you give us what a real DuVal is supposed to sound like?
Yeah, so Liam Cohen goes, DuVal? Like he's asking a question. Like DuVal, you're supposed to go, DuVal. It's like a big thing in Jacksonville, and Liam Cohen really dropped the ball there. And
the ball in the DuVal.
Hopefully DuVal won't be dropping many balls now because obviously you got Brian Thomas Jr., who had a big year, and then they just drafted Travis Hunter, one of the most dynamic players in college football. So things should be looking up there. We'll see what happens in DuVal. This isn't a Jaguars podcast, so we'll get back to the Bears now.
It's always kind of a touch of a Jaguars podcast over here. Yeah. But yes, let's turn the page to big storylines. We are looking forward to big picture stuff for the Bears over this 2025 season because there are a whole lot of storylines here. So Clay, just one game where you're like, ooh, this game is circled on my calendar. It's going to be fun for this reason.
I'm going to start off with the opening game of the year, man. And I mean, that's Monday Night Football versus the Vikings. The NFC North is the only division which all 4 teams have at least a 35% chance to make the playoffs, according to ESPN analytics. And my washing machine apparently is done now. I don't know if you can hear that, Alex.
I can hear that.
Yeah. I was washing some clothes. Okay. Got to get ready for the big pro football show tonight. But so you got these teams. Every team, according to ESPN analytics, has a 35% chance. No other division has every team in the 30s. So this is going to be a tight division. And you're starting off with one of those teams, the Minnesota Vikings, who are one of these boom or bust teams, in my opinion. Okay, you got Brian Flores, the Vikings defensive coordinator, tied for first in turnovers last year, second in EPA per play, 5th in points allowed. Number one thing in my opinion is Brian Flores versus Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson has been able to get the best of Brian Flores when he was with the Detroit Lions, obviously very, very familiar with each other. This year, he's got a different type quarterback. Jared Goff was a guy that could beat the blitz just because he was so quick getting the ball out of his hand. Getting the ball to Amon-Ra St. Brown on a quick throw and knowing when he's blitzing and Jahmyr Gibbs, getting them swing passes, letting them break one tackle, take it to the house. Is he going to have that same kind of success with Caleb Williams, who does hold on to the ball a little bit longer, with DeAndre Swift, who's not known to break as many tackles, with Roschon Johnson, who isn't David Montgomery, is not going to get you those short yardage plays. So can he do what he was able to do against this Vikings defense? Brian Flores, like I said, one of the best defensive coordinators in the league, like he did with the Lions. So that's number one as far as the Vikings are concerned. And then obviously, defensively for the Bears, offensively for the Vikings, is J.J. McCarthy. Who's he going to be? Because this offense, if you look at this,
is he going to be Joe Burrow or Sam Darnold?
Honestly, Sam Darnold, Joe Burrow. Even Sam Darnold. If he was Sam Darnold last year, I'd still be shocked. Because this guy, yes, he's a second-year player. He knows the playbook. that gives you something. You're not a rookie wanting that doesn't know this offense. You know the offense, but you still haven't played, right? So this is going to be interesting to see what J.J. McCarthy is, because if you look at this team, Alex, minus the question mark, they look like a dang near all-star team. You still got Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hockenson. Their offensive line got a lot better. They signed Will Fries. They brought in a lot of Ryan Kelly. I mean, they've done a lot.
Jackson from Ohio State.
Yeah, Donovan Jackson draft pick. So they've done a lot to this offensive line. You know, they re-signed their running back. Like, they are a dangerous team if J.J. McCarthy can play. And obviously defensively, they brought a lot of the same guys back. You bring in a couple of older, Jonathan Allen, a little bit older, Javon Hargrave, defensive lineman. So that, to me, big storyline. How does Ben Johnson fare against Brian Flores in the Bears uniform? And then J.J. McCarthy. Can this defense, Dennis Allen, can he confuse a young rookie quarterback, make him make mistakes, force some turnovers to give the Bears an advantage there?
Clay, I'm bringing out my notebook to show you my first one. Week 1. We are aligned. We are aligned there. So I agree with you entirely. And I think J.J. McCarthy is obviously the most interesting thing. Now, we kind of just dunked on the whole floor to ceiling being Sam Darnold to Joe Burrow. But what I will say is last draft, so the 2024 draft, NFL circles viewed J.J. McCarthy more highly, I think, than public people, like fans doing mock drafts at home, viewed J.J. McCarthy. I know, some NFL teams had him as high as the number 2 quarterback, the second quarterback on the board. So the NFL world views this guy as a legit QB, winner, it factor, all of those things.
Yeah.
Right? Everything that we saw at Michigan, and Michigan just ran the ball and he didn't have to throw, he didn't have to do anything. NFL teams, I don't think saw it quite as similarly. They didn't have as many concerns about that. So Bears got their first. They're the first ones to really, really see it, and to bring it back to your, I guess, boom or bust. I mean, it leans almost closer to boom if J.J. McCarthy is simply good. This is a team that was 14-3 last year. It's kind of ridiculous, right? That they were 14-3. There wasn't that much noise about it. It was about as under the radar of a 14-3
one game away from being the number 1 seed in the NFL. If they beat Detroit that last week of the season, they're the number 1 seed.
Yeah, absolutely. So will they have a drop-off? Yeah, they'll probably have a little bit of a drop-off going from, as you said, a veteran Sam Darnold who has seen a lot of stuff and is experienced, et cetera, et cetera. They'll probably have some drop-off. I don't think they're going to be 14-3 again. But if J.J. McCarthy is good, that is a really, really good football team. And as you said, those games between the Lions and the Vikings last year felt like heavyweight fights. I mean, just two powerhouses trading blows. It's obviously the same minds. It's different rosters, different quarterbacks, but it's the same. It's still Ben Johnson against Brian Flores. A lot of the same pieces are in place. So I think it is extremely interesting. It's going to be our first look at the Ben Johnson offense. There is a whole lot to like in that week 1 Monday Night Football. The entire NFL world will be watching. So I think that's a great choice, Clay. But for my first choice, I am going to fast forward all the way to week 12 when the Pittsburgh Steelers come into town along with Aaron Rodgers.
Especially with all this noise just happening.
That's my God, right? Exactly. And now it's the Pittsburgh Steelers with Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith, who, by the way, you want to talk about an under-the-radar guy who caught a lot of balls and racked up a lot of yards at tight end.
Yeah.
We talk a whole lot about 12 in Chicago. 12 might be the thing in Pittsburgh with Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith and DK Metcalf and Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin, the Steelers, who are kind of desperate to win a playoff game. Now, they had to give up Minkah Fitzpatrick, who is also a great player in that deal. But get this. So Rodgers returns. He is 24-5 against the Bears. He has declared himself the owner of the Bears. I don't think anybody can really dispute that claim.
Yeah.
I haven't checked the title. I haven't checked the deed. But this guy, 24-5, pretty dominant. He doesn't have 20 wins against any other team, and he's got 24 against the Bears. And then obviously you have all of we mentioned the trade. So Caleb Williams, we just got done saying earlier, modeled his game after Aaron Rodgers. Is this the opportunity for Caleb Williams to take back that deed, to take back ownership of the Bears for the Bears, to have a little student surpasses the teacher in terms of this is the guy that I watched, this is the guy I modeled my game after, this was my favorite player growing up? I just think storylines abound as the Bears host the Steelers in Week 12.
No, I love that pick. Obviously, the Aaron Rodgers storyline, it's hard to get away from that because he's just devastated Chicago for so long. Like you said, 24 wins against the Bears. And now you start to see, like, this team has Darius Slay. They have, these cornerbacks. Can the Bears throw the ball on these guys with Ramsey, Slay? Obviously they're giving up Minkah Fitzpatrick. You think that the TJ Watt deal is going to get done and he's going to be back, in a Steelers uniform. He's been missing some OTAs right now. But overall, I think it's very interesting. You got the DK Metcalf. The Steelers are doing very un-Steelers-like things. So I'm curious just to see what this team looks like because you've never seen this happen before. They haven't won a playoff game in 9 years. I know that Mike Tomlin never misses the playoffs, but definitely going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a game that has some consequence too for both teams, even at that point in the season. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'll just go ahead and jump into my second pick here, Alex. And the reason I'm going with this one, part of me wanted to just go all division games, but I'm going to do one out of division before I get back into division. A little spoiler. This game kind of derailed the Bears season last year. It did. And this is the Washington Commanders. And I think they play them right after the bye week.
Coming out of the bye, again on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, Monday Night Football, right? So storylines here, obviously, Jaden Daniels has arguably the best rookie season in NFL history. That's what C.J. Stroud said. The guy, 25 touchdowns, 9 interception, 4th in QBR in the entire league, 3,500 yards. Also to go along with a solid rushing year of 900 yards and 6 touchdowns. This guy led his team to the NFC Championship game, did a lot of great things. You can't argue that. Jaden Daniels was the second pick. Caleb Williams was the first pick. They're forever linked. I know people are like, oh, get over it. Hey, I know there's a bunch of reasons for the success of Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams struggling last year. Caleb Williams had 3 offensive coordinators. Cliff Kingsbury was there the whole time, and he's coming back. So now there's some continuity between Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury. They're going to be able to put some more wrinkles into this playbook, and then you throw in a couple extra pieces for him, like Deebo Samuel. How are they going to use Deebo Samuel? This guy, you can throw a quick pass, 5 will get you 20. This guy's going to help a lot. Terry McLaurin, I assume they get the contract dispute figured out. Scary Terry's back in business. So this team looks great, especially they bring in Laramie Tunsil, draft Josh Connerly, one of mine and Alex's favorite offensive tackles. We thought this guy could play. And then defensively, I think they brought back some solid players. They brought back Bobby Wagner. They still got Frankie Louvu. Marshawn Latimer is going to play a little bit better this year. Darren Payne's still over there. So this Commanders team isn't playing for second place in the NFC East in a playoff berth. They want to win the thing. So big storyline, Caleb Williams, Chicago Bears, revenge for the Hail Mary, Monday Night Football. This team, this single play, you would have been 5-2. Okay, instead, you're 4-3, and it's just national news, national media, your coach is getting bashed, everybody's getting bashed. This one play derailed your season. Go and get revenge, beat the number 2 pick, show why the Bears are back. You know, you're going to get the revenge for the Hail Mary, the Fail Mary. So for me, Alex, that's why that's a big storyline.
Love it. The one thing that I will add to that, because I'm with you, we mentioned it right off the top, coming out of the bye. This is going to be our first chance to see how Ben Johnson and his staff make adjustments coming out of a bye. That's something that actually Matt Eberflus was historically very good at. They were really good at self-scouting, whether it was the mini buys, you know, like a Thursday to Monday type deal, or coming out of the bye week, that it wasn't always the case, but more often than not, there were noticeable changes, whether it was a personnel change, scheme change, snap count change. They would do really solid self-scouting, come out with some new wrinkles, and perform pretty well for a stretch coming out of those buys. That's important, especially when the Bears have such an early bye. A week 5 bye, you know, you first hear week 5 bye and you go, oh man, that's a long stretch for the rest of the way that they got to play without rest. That's a little bit of an early bye. Like that's tough. That's going to be a lot of wear and tear on these guys' bodies as the year goes on and on and on. But the other way of thinking of it is, okay, you have 4 games to assess what went well, what didn't go well. Let's do some real good self-scouting. Let's change some things up. Let's build on our strengths. Let's do this, that, and the other thing. So I'm really interested to see how the Bears look coming out of that bye. Are they going to make significant changes? Is it going to be more of the same? We don't really know. We don't really know how Ben Johnson and his staff are going to handle that and what kind of wholesale changes they're going to make.
No, I love that, Alex. I think that's a great point. And like you said, it's going to be good. I wouldn't like this bye for a veteran team with an older coach they've been with, but for Ben Johnson, I think it's perfect because you're going to find out early on what your team's doing well, what you're not doing well. You have this chance to self-scout everything, right? Go back to every rep, every snap, what happened, what do you need to improve on, what do we need to clean up, who's playing best, who do we need to put in this situation, who do we need to put in this spot, who do we need to get the ball to over here, who do we need to let rush from this place, who's guarding this receiver. So there's going to be a ton of stuff that they can figure out, new coaches, new systems on both sides of the ball. So I'm actually okay with it. Like you said, most coaching staffs, I wouldn't want it. Most teams, I wouldn't want it. But in this case, with Ben Johnson, new coach, 2 new systems, I think if they start off, getting a little banged up or on a slow start, you have a chance now to do the self-scout and figure out how you need to proceed.
Okay. My second game, I'm going just before the bye a couple weeks before the bye. It's week 3 when the Bears play the Dallas Cowboys and 𝗬𝗪ce gets his revenge, ? So old coach playing old team is always a storyline. But I am particularly interested in this for a handful of reasons. One is Matt Eberflus was always a good defensive coordinator. That was never in question. When he took over play calling for the defense for the Chicago Bears, there was an almost immediate uptick in play. Things looked better. He did interesting, creative things. He knew the strengths of his personnel on defense, and he did weird stuff to play to those strengths, to be quite honest. Whether it was rush games, NASCAR packages with defensive tackles. We saw them playing some dime, like a lot more dime than you would typically see in certain third down situations. He was solid. He had a good knack, in my opinion, for play calling, dialing up blitzes, all of that stuff. That was all good. Now he has an unbelievably talented defense to work with. He has potentially the most talented defensive player in the entire National Football League in Micah Parsons, who is a true Swiss Army knife, who can move all up and down that defensive line, can play linebacker. I mean, you can move this guy all over the field and do crazy stuff. So I am very interested to see what he does with Micah Parsons. But it's not just that. DaRon Bland, coming off a great season with the Cowboys. Trayvon Diggs, another great cornerback. And he finally has the 3-tech that he was kind of always searching for in Chicago in 𝗻𝗁cie Odighizuwa. I'm so sorry. So he was always kind of looking for that 3-tech, right? Yeah. Like Justin Larry Ogunjobi was the first crack at it. Didn't pass his physical. Justin Jones showed up in moments but was inconsistent. And then, Jervon Dexter and the numerous other defensive tackles that they throw in there, they never really found that penetrating 3-tech that is the engine of his defense. Well, he's got a really, really good one right now in Dallas. So there's all of that. What is 𝗬𝗏 going to do with this super talented roster? But here's the other thing. Who knows what Caleb Williams struggles at better than Matt Eberflus? Who knows better what to dial up to challenge Caleb Williams better than Matt Eberflus? This guy worked with him very intimately all year long.
No, he didn't. They didn't even watch tape.
They did watch tape, according to Matt Eberflus. He says, not true. But that was good. So he knows the strengths. He knows the weaknesses. He's been a defensive coordinator a long time. Before that, pass game coordinator from the defensive perspective. He is going to know how to challenge Caleb Williams. So from all of that alone, it's going to be really, really interesting, in my opinion, to see what 𝗬𝗏 dials up to try and stifle Ben Johnson and try and stifle Caleb Williams. And by the way, the Bears played the Lions pretty tough. The record against them was not very good, but they played them tough. I want to say they were 1-4. They could have easily been 3-2 against the Lions, if not for some late collapses. So 𝗬𝗏 has played Ben Johnson's offenses tough. I'm really interested to see that early matchup.
Yeah, and there's been some shade thrown around too. So I think that adds to it, man. I mean, not just Caleb Williams. I mean, you hear a lot of players speaking out about how the culture just wasn't there. The coaching, they just didn't hold people accountable. There's been a lot of that. So I think 𝗬𝗏 is going to want to prove something. But I think you're forgetting a big part of this game. Big part. Who's right now penciled in as a Dallas Cowboys starting middle linebacker?
Jack Sanborn?
Jack Sanborn.
Is he going to be there starting Mike?
Right now on the depth chart, their starting middle linebacker on ESPN.com is Jack Sanborn. Even if he's not starting, he's going to get some tick. And I think, honestly, I could see him being a starter. Jack Sanborn is a player. And I know I went on my rant a couple weeks ago about how I didn't understand why you're not bringing back Jack Sanborn. I know he's not an Olympic sprinter. The guy's a football player. And I think that sometimes people overlook how important it is to get football players rather than track athletes. If that wasn't the case, we would just have a field full of track athletes running around and playing here. But I think it's going to be interesting. This guy doesn't get re-signed. Jack Sanborn, he's going to want to prove a little bit. Hey, you guys let me walk. Now I'm going to stick it to you a little bit. Jack Sanborn playing against Caleb Williams too with 𝗬𝗏. Come on now. He's got 𝗬𝗏 in his ear. This is double duty right here. Like, he's got the middle linebacker to give the plays. But like you said, great storyline early in the season. 𝗬𝗏's coming back. The Cowboys, interesting season. You get a real number 2 receiver with George Pickens. Now you got Jake Ferguson at tight end, obviously CeeDee Lamb. So they got some weapons. Big year for Dak Prescott. He's going to have to show it this year. So I'm curious. I think you're right on there. This is a big game, and I think that's definitely one of the most intriguing matchups in the year. But I mean, I know this is low-hanging fruit, but I gotta go with the Detroit Lions next, Alex. I mean, Ben Johnson, Antoine Randall. I mean, he takes a lot of the staff from Detroit, and now he just plants them in Chicago, in division rival. You got the Lions versus the Bears with Dan Campbell, with his new lieutenants coming into Chicago to play the Bears. To me, that is a must-see game. How does Ben Johnson do against his old team that he had so much success with? And then you got a new offensive coordinator right now for the Lions too. I mean, it's pretty interesting. it's pretty interesting. So the year before Ben Johnson started calling plays, the line ranked 25th in points per game, 19.1, and 22nd in yards per game during the 2021 season. You know, they added Johnson, and then the next thing you know, they're up to 380 yards per game and 27 points per game, 4th in the league and 5th in the league, respectively. So will they go back to that team, that offense, before Ben Johnson? Or is this about the talent? Is it about having Amon-Ra St. Brown? Is this about having Sam Laporta? Is this about, having David Montgomery, Jared Goff taking off? And now you got Johnny Morton as your offensive play caller. When he called plays for Todd Bowles and the Jets in his lone season as an offensive coordinator, and I know he didn't have a ton of talent on that team, so I'm not saying that this is his ceiling or his floor, but let's look at the now offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions, the 1 year that he called plays for the New York Jets. The Jets ranked 25th in points per game at 18.6 and 28th in yards per game at 305. It's worth noting, Josh McCown was his quarterback. He had a 32-year-old former Bear running back. Do you remember the running back that played with the Jets at the end of his career that's a Chicago legend?
Thomas Jones, of course.
No, it should be Thomas Jones.
But Matt Forte.
Yeah.
Matt Forte, the other one. Did Thomas Jones go to the Jets after the Bears also?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. So there's two running.
Matt Forte.
Yeah, Matt Forte.
But that's the one you were talking about.
Thomas Jones and Matt Forte. And his leading receiver was Robbie Chosen now, I think it's called, and then Jermaine Kearse, right? So he didn't have a ton of weapons, but then you got Kelvin Shepard, guy that broke my ankle. Guy's never called a play in his life, was a linebacking coach. So Lions lose Frank Ragnow. They still got a really talented roster, probably the most talented in the division, but coaching matters. They lost 8 coaches this year, including their offensive and defensive coordinators. Ben Johnson, now the top offensive coordinator in the NFL, is leading the Bears, who probably aren't as talented of a roster, but they got some really good coaches, and Caleb Williams is getting better. Offensive line is better. Your weapons got better. Defense, Dennis Allen, I think he can keep them up as a good defense. So to me, there's a lot of storylines here, and probably more than any game, I'm looking forward to Bears versus Lions. Let's go.
Yeah, no, it's a great pick, and you're absolutely right. These storylines are endless, and we could go both games against the Lions here because you're absolutely right. It's going to be fascinating to see how the Lions do with their new coordinators. It's going to be fascinating to see all that on both sides of the ball. But from a Bears perspective and truly like where they are on the schedule, week 2, this is an opportunity to, based on how things are going, like it's either going to be vibes are off the charts in Chicago. Let's say they win on Monday Night Football and they have an opportunity to win against the Lions. The Bears didn't play a divisional game until week 11 last year?
Yeah.
Week 2, they could be 2-0 in the division. I mean, we're talking astronomical vibes. Or the Bears lose 13-10 on Monday Night Football, and then they lose 30-27 in week 2, and all of a sudden 2 weeks in, the Bears are 0-2 in the division.
Alex, my blood pressure. Your blood pressure. Even just you saying that, it's starting to beat a little harder.
Talk to your doctor about 𝗦𝗏.
I will.
So obviously there's a lot of variance. Of course, they could be 1-1. Tempered vibes. So just in terms of where it is on the roster, so that's week 2, right? The Bears have a chance to go 2-0 in the division, 0-2 in the division, or 1-1, some combo. There's a lot there. But then they play the Lions again week 18. And let's say things do go well for the Bears. The Ben Johnson effect is extremely real. Dennis Allen has this defense playing lights out. They're not missing a beat. Montez Sweat is got double-digit sacks. Jalen Johnson's going to be an all-pro. And, vibes are high. Week 18, that game can matter a lot. That could be a game where, again, if we are getting recklessly projective right now, we are projecting recklessly. is this an opportunity for the
Don't
Bears
do this. Don't give me hope. Don't give me hope. If you're a Marvel fan, I'm sorry, but continue.
I kind of dropped off in the comic book movies. I don't know.
That was on the Avengers when they said there was a way to like get all the people back that Thanos had.
The snap.
Snapped, and they said that to Hawkeye, who is the arrow guy. I don't know how he's an Avenger when he's literally shooting arrows at people, but yet he's an Avenger. But
you got to get guys from range. You got to have your tanks up front, and you got to have your arrow dudes in back.
Bro, you got the Hulk, you got Thor, and then you got freaking Robin Hood. Like, come on, man, this guy's just a normal human.
Dude, that's classic tank, DPS, and support. That's a classic party group. Like, that's perfect.
All right. We'll let it go.
Justice for Hawkeye, and that's a good line.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's your Avengers talk for the day. So week 18, is this their opportunity to unseat the Lions as the reigning NFC North champions, the guys who have been on top of that division? Obviously, there's going to be a lot of teams vying for that title. You said it at the top of this pod. What was it? Every team's got a 30% chance? That's outrageous. 35. That's crazy. So there's clearly an opportunity there. So the statisticians at ESPN believe, is that an opportunity in week 18 for the Bears to unseat the Lions? We are recklessly projecting. Is that just wrapping it up? Are we going to be seeing all the draft picks playing, 60% of the snaps? Are we going to be seeing a lot of, Ruben Hippolyte? We don't know. We don't know how it's going to play out, but narrative-wise, week 2 and week 18 could have monster implications for the Bears. Okay, for my last pick, and again, this is kind of obvious, and it's for a lot of the same reasons that I just discussed with the divisional stuff. It's the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers will always have the storylines. Now that I know that Caleb Williams' ceiling is Jordan Love, something that I learned 40 minutes ago. Can he beat Jordan Love? The guy, he's already done it once, right? So Packers, it's just
Jordan Love didn't play the second half. Let's not forget that. When they won at Green Bay, Jordan Love did not play the full game.
I did forget that. Yeah. That's a good deal. Can he beat Jordan Love in a full game this time?
Yeah.
And then here's what I think is also important, and I think important for Bears fans. In week 16, that's when they play at Soldier Field. That is when the playoff stuff really heats up, right? That is when the people who are in the hunt but not really in the hunt fall off the graphic. That is when wildcard races heat up, division races heat up. That week 16 game could be huge for playoff implications, and it gives Bears fans an opportunity to root for a Bears win against the Packers at home. Caleb Williams did the impossible by winning in Lambeau. I say that obviously tongue-in-cheek, but the Bears do not typically have success at Lambeau. It's hard to win there. Caleb Williams did that. Can he give Bears fans a win against the Packers at home?
No, I think you're absolutely right. This is an interesting team. The Packers are one of the teams I think people have slept on. You got to remember, Jordan Love was injured for a few games, and then he came back, and he wasn't 100%. Yeah, he had an up-and-down year. And then his receivers were like top of the league in drop rate. I think I have it right there, according to PFF. And there are different drop rates for ESPN, NBC, but the Packers are always in the top 5. Fourth most drops, according to Pro Football Focus, an 8.1% drop rate. Jaden Reed was the only receiver to pass 800 yards for the Packers. And now, obviously you bring in Matthew Golden, Savion Williams, and now you got a bunch of new receivers there. Can Lucas Van Ness turn into that number one pass rusher that you have, or Sean Gary? I mean, they got some work to do on their defense, I think. Obviously, defensively.
Jair Alexander.
Yeah, Jair Alexander's gone. Can you replace him? The Packers' off-shaky run defense allowed the 7th fewest rushing yards in the NFL last year. Its highest ranking in 15 years, and was top 10 in points allowed and takeaways. So Jeff Hafley did a nice job. Now Jair Alexander's gone. So there's a lot of questions there. And this is your rival, man. This is an important game. How are the Packers going to be? They're a team that thinks they're being overlooked, that could have a chance to really play heavy in this division. So I think that's a great pick, Alex. And if there's one game you want to win, obviously I'm big on the Detroit game, but it might be the Packers.
Yeah. All right. So that's it. 6 games, 3 from Clay, 3 from myself. I kind of cheated and talked about week 2 and week 18. So I kind of added an extra one in there. But those are the games we've got our eyes on for big storylines. Let us know in the comments. What are the games that you can't miss? Is it simply, hey, the Bears are playing in Vegas, so I'm flying to Vegas, and that's a big storyline for me, is flying to Vegas and having fun. Clay's raising his hand for folks who aren't watching on YouTube, who are just listening at home. Clay's raising his hand and said, yeah, I'll be in Vegas. I'll be there. I'm going to try and find my way down to Vegas. I'm not going to lie. I want to go to Sphere. I want to see whatever the hell is playing at Sphere and check it out. Sounds like a lot of fun. Storyline for the two of us, maybe personally, not on the football field. So let us know the games that you are looking forward to the absolute most this season. And stay tuned, because we have another wonderful episode of the Charter Podcast, brought to you by St. Xavier University with our guy Clay Harbor. It's going to be passing ships. So coming up, we've got the Clay Harbor special extravaganza, and it's going to be great, and definitely tune in for that later this week. And then 𝗬𝗏 𝗠𝗠𝗀 will be back, and I will be gone. So summer is in full effect here. But once again, thank you so much to listening for the Charter Podcast presented by St. Xavier University. I am 𝗪𝗓 𝗍𝗫. He is Clay Harbor. Have a wonderful start to your week, everybody.